From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt, and this is Weather or Not for Tuesday, December 30th. Coming up on today's show, we'll have a snow update, where we stand so far for the season, as we've had snowfall amounts in eastern KELOLAND above average. We'll take a look at those numbers coming up here. Also take a look at the snowfall prediction. And we'll talk about New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We have a warm day today that we'll get to in just a bit, but we will start to cool, especially for New Year's Day itself, and some of that cold air will arrive just in time for New Year's Eve evening. And we'll take a look at our pattern coming up and see what's going on as we get into January, the new year, 2026. Futurecast for today. We started some cloud cover in the eastern South Dakota, even some flurries and snow showers showing up on KELOLAND Live Doppler HD in eastern South Dakota, western Minnesota. Anything that fell, hit the ground, remained very light, but we know it doesn't take much to give you a couple of slick areas here and there. So we've had that this morning. I think a lot of that will be done for the afternoon. And then we'll watch this cold front swing through tonight and tomorrow. And look at this. It's trying to bring in another round of flurries and snow showers into eastern and northeastern South Dakota. Same thing. We'll see how much of this hits the ground as the moisture is fairly limited, but Futurecast trying to show that across extreme northeastern South Dakota into west central Minnesota as we go through the day tomorrow. And that trough, well, it's depicted as a trough here. It's that backdoor cold front. As that moves through, we'll have northeast winds coming in right behind it. And as we've been mentioning and always mentioned with the northeast wind, it's really hard to warm up. And I think that will be the case for tomorrow. It could be one of those days. We've been through many of them already this winter where we have our high temperature hit early in the day, and then those numbers do slowly fall as we go into the afternoon. And that could be the case tomorrow in eastern and northeastern South Dakota, where we can have our high temperature hit early in the day, which may end up being close to 30 in eastern South Dakota and western Minnesota. So that runs through. High pressure quickly comes in right behind it. And we will ring in the new year dry, but it will be cold in eastern South Dakota. We could have some areas in the single digits as we hit midnight for New Year's Eve going into New Year's Day across eastern South Dakota and western Minnesota. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for some cold temperatures on the way for New Year's Eve. That lasts right into New Year's Day. But that will change as we do get into this coming weekend. The wind will pick up. And with our winds helping to mix up the atmosphere, that's why we'll have our temperatures rebound today. Numbers above average. We'll bring in melting temperatures with numbers in the middle 30s across eastern South Dakota. Notice these wind speeds in eastern KELOLAND in that 30-mile-per-hour range. So don't be too surprised as these winds do pick up into the late morning and afternoon. And then for tomorrow, you can see that north to northeast wind across eastern South Dakota and western Minnesota. So that will help bring in the cooler, colder air. That will stick with us as we get into New Year's Day itself. And it looks like we'll have light wind speeds. A lot of these winds coming in around 5 to 10 miles per hour to cover central and eastern KELOLAND for New Year's Day itself. So not much mixing during that day. It will remain cold. And even going into Friday, the temperatures may rebound a little, but I do expect much warmer air to return as we get into Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, we may have numbers return to the 40s in southeastern South Dakota, Sioux Falls included. Our forecast for today, we have a high of 37 in Sioux Falls, 34 in Brookings, 36 in Marshall, 36 Aberdeen. But 40s do show up in central to parts of southeastern South Dakota, 42 in Yankton and Pierre, and we'll see what we can do about hitting 50 today in Rapid City. Then for tonight, temperatures fall to the teens and 20s, and then for tomorrow, I mentioned that we'll probably have our high temperature early in the day and then expect those numbers to fall. Notice that northeast wind in Aberdeen, at least 10 to 20 miles per hour. Winds eventually becoming north to northeast for Sioux Falls, 35. That may be a little too warm. We'll see what actually happens, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a number maybe around freezing, 32 degrees for Sioux Falls before those numbers do start to fall during the afternoon. And then 40s and 50s will show up in the central and western South Dakota. A chance for Rapid City to hit the middle 50s for tomorrow. Coming up, we'll talk more about our snow update of what we've had so far this season. And then later on, I think in the next segment, we'll talk more about New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. It's time to take a look at our snowfall update. Where do we sit so far this season? For the month of December, look at this. Sioux Falls now at a foot of snow. Mentioned before even heading into this snowfall season that December is now the snowiest month when you look at the climate stats for Sioux Falls. And that's above average, that 12 inches. We'll get to how much above coming up. About half a foot so far this month in Aberdeen, 6.5 there, Watertown, close to 7 in Huron, over 8 in Mitchell. And then notice how light snowfall amounts this month in the central and western South Dakota. Here's a look at our departure as we're close to 4 inches above in Sioux Falls. That Mitchell number, that's not right. It says over 7. Let's go ahead and go back to the other graphic there. You can see, so far we've had over 8 inches of snow, and it's bringing in that departure of being over 7 inches. So that would tell you that, we should get, 1.3 inches on average in Mitchell. So that's not right. Don't pay attention to that 7.3 being above for Mitchell. But you can see these amounts here, western, central, northern South Dakota. Those numbers are below average by 1.5 inches in Aberdeen, close to 2 inches in Watertown, 4 1/3 in Mobridge, over 2 in Pierre, and close to 3 in Rapid City. So we've had our snows that have been adding up in southeastern South Dakota, Sioux Falls in particular. Now, as we do take a look at where I stand so far for this snowfall season, there's a look at some of those numbers that I predicted for the 4 forecast cities, and we're sitting at 20 inches. So we're already well above average, and I did forecast numbers to be below average for the season. I know there's a lot of time to go. Only need, less than a foot to hit my prediction of 31.5. So we do have a dry weather pattern that we're looking at for at least the next week to week and a half, and I could just use some more drier weather if I want to be selfish about it to hit my prediction. So that's where I stand. We're a little bit more than half there in Aberdeen, but let's go ahead and bring in Pierre and Rapid City. Pierre about a third of the way there. Looks like it'd be a little more than a third of the way there, but Rapid City, less than 5 inches so far this season, and that's the area where I did predict 42.2. But western South Dakota, when you look at the climate averages, they do get a lot of their snows later in the year. When you look at those months where you look at the climate average snows, the highest months are later in the season. So we'll see what happens as we go through the next several months here, see what I do add to these snowfall amounts. But I could put the brakes on here across southeastern South Dakota. Don't need much more snow coming if I want to be selfish about it and try to get at least close to my prediction. So that's where I stand so far. And we'll talk more about New Year's Eve and New Year's Day coming up. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not. Let's try that in the new year. It's the best thing I have going. An applause. You can find people shouting Happy New Year or something, but I don't have that on the soundboard. So that's the best thing we got. Let's go ahead and hit that again. It's this button. Okay. Well, here's a look at our forecast for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, as this front will move through the area for tomorrow. Now, this will help bring in some colder air as that front moves across eastern KELOLAND. Winds become northeast. Temperatures are expected to fall by the afternoon. I think we'll have a high temperature early in the day in and around Sioux Falls, probably hitting the lower 30s. That may happen around midday, and then those numbers are expected to fall as we get into the afternoon, as those winds do become northeast, especially in the northeastern South Dakota. That could be an area where temperatures may fall to the single digits, lower teens, as we do get into the evening hours, and those temperatures will just continue to fall. So what happens as we get into New Year's Day? I think that cold air will just stay with us. In eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, expect those temperatures to remain cold, teens and 20s for afternoon highs. It will be a little warmer in central and western South Dakota, and it will be dry. So it looks like we'll have dry skies during the evening hours for New Year's Eve, and I think that will continue for New Year's Day, and then those numbers will slowly start to warm. So if you're out there celebrating the new year at midnight, here's a look at our wind chills. They may fall to the minus single digits, maybe the minus teens in some areas. You do see by midnight there, we're looking at -5 in Brookings, -6 in Watertown and Aberdeen, down to -11 in Sisseton. And then as we do get into Thursday, New Year's Day itself, the wind chills do improve. A lot of these locations, if not all of them, looking like we'll have those temperatures above zero. We'll talk about this weather pattern, what happens as we get into January, coming up right after the break. Stay with us. You're watching Whether or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not. Joining me is Brian Karstens. And Brian, before we get to the weather pattern, you were working on a graphic about our wind this month.
You know, December has been quite a month for wind. And it's typically, if you look at the whole calendar year, I think April is the windiest. Yeah.
Yes. On average, I thought, is the number like 14? I've done a story on it. 14 miles per hour, 13 miles per hour. It's high.
Yeah, there's an average number.
Yeah, there's an average number.
You kick out, you know, and you look at typically where April is. Of course, that's the battle of the seasons, right? Between getting out of winter, going into early spring, and you typically get more synoptically driven storm systems. But in the month of December, like this pattern here, really kind of comes down to, again, the exchange of air masses. Kind of the same concept as what we have in the spring. But in this example, we've been under northwest flow, and we ended up on December 10th, a gust of 71 in Sioux Falls. December 18th, a few days later, at 59. December 9th, so that was the day before the 10th there. So that one registered at 58. So that's connected to that outbreak. And also the December 28th event from Sunday, 47 miles per hour. And then there are several of those I didn't label, but that are still quite windy as well. So it's been a pretty interesting month. We'll see if we get more wind in January. Right now, Scott, the early bird projections on the first 10 days of the month, nothing stands out yet, but, you know, I'll go back. Yeah.
So we'll get to that graphic coming up in a bit.
But it can change. We know that. It can go back to some windy days. It just depends on how fierce this Arctic air wants to come back. And as long as it kind of sits up here to the north, then the Pacific air slides in, and that's kind of where we're at here going into early January. So more of the same. That does block us from any big snowstorms. So
nothing coming in from the southwest.
Correct. So those are, if we had a big trough out west, we'd be a lot more concerned about that. This is just the opposite. Big ridge over the Rockies. And so the pattern is likely going to stay, I would say at this point, Scott, below average on precipitation.
Yes.
Doesn't mean we can't get something to come along from the northwest.
We've seen it for much of the winter, I would say, a lot of these systems coming in from the northwest to give us our snows. And we talked about our snow so far this season earlier in the show, too. So a lot of the heavier snows have been showing up across southeastern South Dakota, Sioux Falls included. We're up to 12 inches for the month of December.
And what is it now? For the whole season, I think Sioux Falls is right around 20.
20,
That's pretty good. So,
need to pull back on that if I want to hit my prediction. That's a different story, though.
So you're all good for this little quieter.
Quieter, right, exactly. I'm fine with that.
And January typically is not an overly snowy month. It's because it tends to be colder, so the snow averages do go down. So we'll see what happens.
And we've talked about this before too, Brian. The climate snowfall. In fact, I should probably make a graphic for this. It's highest in Sioux Falls is December with our climate average snowfall, and then I think the second highest is February.
That sounds right. Yeah,
and then it goes to March.
And then
when we started, it was March, right?
Yeah, 25
back in the day.
26 years ago, yeah. Isn't that something? So that's kind of where we sit. So maybe we shouldn't have been surprised that December came out as kind of a snowier month. This pattern, again, I'm just going through the days here on the calendar and going out to the 4th and the 5th of January. You get a zonal flow like that coming out of Colorado and Wyoming. That, to me, looks like still an above average forecast for temperatures here. The center of high pressure is to our south, but we don't necessarily need that to usher in Pacific air. That's kind of what we're looking at. And this map does a good job of illustrating that, because when you see the reds and the magenta colors, you've got Pacific air. When you see blues and purples, well, you've got modified Arctic air there. So well, look at where we're at, right on the border or dividing line, aren't we here, Scott?
See, now that's an interesting map too, because I think that tells the story going into January, that little sliver of blue there across northeastern South Dakota, western Minnesota, below average temperatures. Numbers will be colder there compared to what's expected in western and southwestern South Dakota, where it looks like we'll probably have a lot of these days at least at 50 degrees in the west and southwest.
Yes, absolutely. And that momentum there is going to continue. And I really believe, too, Scott, as we go through time, we're already starting to see the developing signs of what's going to happen here as we go into late winter, early spring. If we don't break this ridge down out west, we're running deficits on snow. We've talked about Colorado. The Black Hills is a general average.
Oh, all the western South Dakota, it's less than 5 inches in Rapid City for the season.
Yep. Those are numbers and trends that, you kind of look at that, and over time that adds up. So,
well, I mean, let's go back to the fall. It was warm. It was dry. We had the pattern of almost what we're getting into right now. And then it broke November, December for at least parts of KELOLAND. Not for everybody, but for at least parts of KELOLAND. It broke. We'll see how long something like this lasts. And again, just because we're in northwest flow doesn't mean it's dry all along. We've had northwest flow, seems like for the past 2 months, and we've been able to generate some snows out of it.
Yep.
Some decent snows, too.
Yep. And the track of each clipper-like system varied, and some of them a little stronger than others. But, yeah, they'll continue to kind of ride this pattern. And so I think those are good talking points to think about as we start January. And I also want to be on record as saying that I think as we get into the month, we're not done with Arctic air moving in.
Okay.
There's some good evidence supporting another big plunge of Arctic air. But the question, it's always a matter of, okay, look at this. See how Alaska's
There's the Alaskan
cold?
connection.
See, that's got to flip. That has to flip in order for us to get cold. Right now, plenty cold up there. They're way below normal in Alaska. But once we start seeing more evidence of that flipping, is that going to be the second week, third week of January? Probably my guess is going to be a little later, toward that third week maybe. But
second half of the month.
Yeah, that seems more probable the way that things are panning out right now. So I'll take the days where it's warmer because my furnace bill is a little lower.
Of course. Yeah.
I like that. It's always nice.
Not working as hard with the furnace to keep the house warm, keep everybody warm, and you expect those cold temperatures in January anyway.
You do. Yep. You're going to get a cold snap most years. We know that. Last year, too, February was kind of rough. So we got a long ways to go in winter. No doubt about it.
No, but let's enjoy this break and this quiet weather. Can we label it as quiet weather? I think we can as we do begin the new year. We are looking at now no major systems that are expected to move across the area. And here's a look at the American model for snowfall outlook. This will take us through the first week of January. So we're going out to the 7th of January here, keeping a lot of that snow to our north and to our east. Now we do have snow chances, much like what we had this morning. Would not be surprised to see some light snow showers tomorrow morning. Parts of eastern and northeastern South Dakota, moisture is very limited. And as we do take a look at the European model, it's more or less the same thing. Our quiet weather pattern will continue through that first full week of January. I cut it off there, and then we'll see, what happens as we get into that second week. But as Brian just showed us too, it was showing that temperatures will remain above average for many across western and central South Dakota. It's that piece in the eastern and northeastern South Dakota that we'll have to watch to see if we get any systems to run through that northwest pattern, much like what we may see over the next couple of days. But Brian, I think this moisture, it's just very limited here as we do go forward.
Yeah, and even the cold that seeps in, it doesn't have a tremendous amount of momentum. So you're going to see some bobbling back and forth, but overall, I like your theme, quiet.
Quiet. Oh, and let's end with this before I hit the music to close the show. The European model is now forecasting 46 for Sioux Falls on Sunday.
Yeah, not surprising, Scott. I think that's interesting to watch.
So we'll watch that. May have to warm those temperatures for the second half of the weekend. And thank you for watching this latest edition of Weather or Not.